welcome Jun back up to the stage for another energizing session.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Maybe just to add to Richard, we cannot acknowledge everyone, but we have a few friends from the Rotary Club Manila, Roland yan is here. And you have the Makati environment, or Roland? Makati environment. There was one time that you pay 1 peso more in the cinema. That's for the foundation. We're also from FIABC. Yeah, 46. I was just newly elected, I don't know why, president of FIABC. FIABC is a federation, international federation for real estate. I cannot even pronounce the French meaning. Federation International something. And I'm supposed to be the president of the Philippine chapter, and we're hosting the Asia Pacific Real Estate Summit in Manila, April 17. And there are many more planners, architects, developers, friends in the building industry. And welcome. The Council for Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat, it's not just tall buildings. The other side is the other aspect is the urban habitat. That's the whole city. So how to locate these tall buildings in a metropolis. Maybe some short definitions. Metropolis is a large city or urban area which is significant economic, political, cultural center for a country or region, important hub for international and international connections, commerce, and communication. Metropolis is a polis is city. It's a combination of several cities. Next slide, please. So, mega city, usually defined as metropolitan area with a total population in excess of 10 million people, can be a single metropolitan area or two or more metropolitan areas that converge. I submitted a term paper in Harvard Graduate School of Design, Manila Megalopolis 2020. Megalopolis combining 20 million population by 2020, combining together Metro Manila, Calabarzon, and Central Luzon. In my paper by that time, it's not an airport in Manila versus Clark. We'll need 3 airports with 20 million people. And one of our proposals, my proposal in the paper also, which is in our book, doing Bay Bridge or Bay Tunnel connecting Cavite and Bataan. And it could also be used as a storm surge, so that before the tsunami or storm surge hits the Ross Boulevard, they're already slowed down. And I've given it to government, but sometimes they suffer from analysis paralysis. So usually defined as metropolitan area with total population in excess of 10 million. So in my paper, it's 20 million by 2020 for Manila Megalopolis. Can be a single metropolitan area or 2 or more metropolitan areas that converge. Mega city, yeah. And megalopolis, again, several metropolitan areas converging, typically defined as a chain of roughly adjacent metropolitan areas, sometimes called the megalopolis or mega region. So this was the definition for my paper, Manila Megalopolis 2020. And vertical and horizontal integration. Better planned cities in the world, you try to strike a good balance between or among jobs, housing, infrastructure, corridors, green spaces, and walkability. Try to visualize Makati. There's a big imbalance between jobs and housing. You have a heavy concentration of jobs and economic activity in the central business district, surrounded by low-density gated communities. So, Makati is how not to do it. Elsewhere in the world, you have a transition of building heights and density. And here it's so sudden. You can build 70-story buildings and immediately 2-story residences. These 2-story single-family homes, maybe they should be in the valley, they should be in Santa Elena, they should be in Canlubang, they should be in Bulacan. And in 1990, I'm a very active member of the Urban Land Institute in Washington, D.C., the American Institute of Architects and the American Planning Association, and the U.S. Green Building Council. The single-family homes, we call them the first 3 suburbs after the war, because those were the suburbs before. We're encouraging them to increase the density, like one house, let's say, in Bel Air, you can have 20 units within that house, multifamily. Maybe in Forest Park, you can do 60 dwelling units in one house, and even maintaining the same facade. So you have 60 families close to the place of work, with only one family. So there's a big imbalance in Makati, also in Ortigas, between jobs and housing. Everybody's complaining about traffic. Where we are to the central business district of Makati, the daytime population is 11 times the nighttime population. So we bring in the 11 times population in the morning and bring them out in the evening. And it's complicated by the very long walls of the villages. In Manhattan and other central business districts in the world, there's an access road every 70 meters, or 210, 250 feet. So they are more porous. But here, you have to go around the gated communities. The EDSA corridor is, again, how not to do it. The EDSA corridor, all the parallel roads are inside gated military camps and gated subdivisions. So all the parallel roads are doesn't support EDSA at all. And the 13 MRT stations along EDSA, again, how not to do it. Elsewhere in the world, London, Paris, New York, Singapore, Hong Kong, Tokyo, a walkable distance. In our case, when we were designing Rockwell, we Metro Manila surveys that we Metro Manilans will walk only 400 meters. Beyond 400 meters, 5-minute walk. We take stop anywhere, tricycle, jeepney, taxi, super-driven cars. Elsewhere in the world, it's about 2 kilometers or 1 mile, 1.5 kilometers. So if you apply that dimension, around the LRT stations along EDSA, which are surrounded by gated military camps, gated government office blocks, gated communities who don't use the LRT. So maybe a 500 kilometer radius, we should have higher density development, high-rise buildings, so they have more walkable distance, walking trips there. And planning is balance. What we have in Metro Manila is imbalance. And even Metro Manila to the rest of the country, it's a primate city is more than 10 times the size of the second biggest city. So Metro Manila is 10 times bigger than Cebu or Davao in population. And part of my study for Manila Megalopolis is that to address the problems in Metro Manila, we create growth centers, emerging metropolitan areas, like Metropolitan Clark, Metropolitan Subic, Metropolitan Batangas City, Lucena, San Pablo, and so on. And the rest of the country, from Lawag, Bigan, down to Cagayan de Oro, Davao, and so on. And elsewhere in the world, like especially European countries, whether you study in the metropolis or the provincia, it's the same quality of education. But here in our country, you study in the provinces, you're a second class, third class, and so on. So even the private sector, like education institutions, maybe instead of expanding metropolis, they expand. Also the housing developers, they expand now in the secondary cities, tertiary cities, which they are doing now in China. So all the data I gave you, even secondary, tertiary cities in China are having the tallest buildings in the world. It's not concentrated to Shanghai and Beijing. So all of this vertical and horizontal integration, jobs, housing, infrastructure, corridors, green spaces, and walkability. Unfortunately, even our Department of Transportation doesn't recognize walking as the first mode of transportation. Our transportation policy is still biased for the automobile. Only 2% of Filipinos own cars. And all of us are pedestrians. Once you leave your car, you're a pedestrian. And road right-of-ways for green urbanism principles, the road corridor, it should be 1/3 for trees and landscaping, 1/3 for pedestrian and bicycles, and only 1/3 for the moving traffic lanes. Look at EDSA, everything for the automobile. And MacArthur Highway, they're cutting down 3,100-year-old trees, which I complained already to the Secretaries of Public Works and Environment. So sustainable community integrating the vertical, horizontal integration, the elements that we showed you. And this is the future of green cities all over the world. And you look at it, it's like Paris, London, Barcelona, maybe Boston, the East Coast cities, where you shop and dine on the first 2 floors, you work on the 2 floors, then the next 3 floors, place to live. So ideally, maybe the villages in Makati, you open up the gates and allow professional offices on the ground floor, and then or convenience stores, then offices in the middle, and maybe 3-4 stories for residential. And those who want to have their villas, you go to Alabang to Canlubang and release your. I live in one of them. Right? When I talk like this, instead of shaming my neighbors, they shame me. They want to maintain the lifestyle. It's easier for me to convince wealthy people elsewhere in the world. I get paid for telling them that. Here, I get shamed for telling it. So this is sustainable green urbanism cities. You live, you work, you shop in the same place. This was the proposal of Daniel Bernheim in 1905 for the city of Manila. Escolta for a while was like with the Tranvia. Tranvia was Meralco, right? Manila Electric Railway Company, Tranvia. So this is the future. We're actually going back to the future. And this is Makati, how not to do it. Very nice in postcards. So the high-rise buildings, you have the 11 times population, strangulated by the low-density gated community. So if you look back, the Ilustrados in the Principalia during the Spanish times, still the same today. I'm sorry to say that, but I'm now talking with the hat of a professor, not an architect, not an activist, not even an activist. So this is many universities elsewhere in the world, also urban regional planning, they're studying Metro Manila and how not to do it. How not to do it. So it's very nice in postcards, but if this were Singapore, Boston, or Hong Kong, there should be a more gradual decrease in building height and density. And that was the original plan of meeting for Makati. But unfortunately, Makati became more successful than expected. Supposed to be Makati, I used to be chief architect planner of Ayala. Ayala Avenue, Paseo Rojas, Makati Avenue were supposed to be the high-rise buildings, place to work. The Gaspi Village, Salcedo Village, supposed to be garden apartments. But because of the success of Makati, everybody wanted to locate their offices here. So the Gaspi Salcedo Village is supposed to be residential, multi-family became place of work also. But the villages did not adjust. They maintained a single-family home in the suburbs. And one of my professors in Harvard, former mayor, he was telling us the first-ring suburbs. These are the gated communities after World War. They were the suburbs after 1950s. They should now convert to medium density so that you have more people within walkable distance to the places of work. And those who want to live a lifestyle of 1 house per hectare, there are available spaces in Santa Elena, Nuvali, and so on. I'm not trying to advertise, we work on Santa Elena, but there are 1 hectare lots there. 1 house per hectare. Yeah. So vertical urbanism versus urban sprawl. Look at the Pasig River. No, this is not Pasig River, it's elsewhere, Singapore. And vertical urbanism versus urban sprawl. People who live in compact cities also tend to live about 3 years longer than people who live in less compact cities. The gap is probably thanks to more driving, which means more fatal crashes, a higher body mass index, higher blood pressure, and more diabetes in less compact cities. A new report on metro density says it straight. Quality of life improves in compact cities. Last year, I was talking to the city planner of Boston. Um, the ones who determine the densities of cities are the millennials and the baby boomers. I'm a baby boomer, those born after the war, I think until 1960s. Generation X after that. Generation Y are the below 35. And the Generation Y, the millennials, are now depend. City planning is looking at them. They are the determinants of land use and density. In Boston, the number of driving license for millennials has gone down. Because the millennials, they'd rather walk to place of work, shop, dine, learn, and worship than drive a car. My daughter Karima practices that. He left our house and he's 9 minutes from our office, walking. He doesn't own a car. Yeah. And I told you about the comparison between Los Angeles and metro area and Boston. Longer lives, less obesity, less heart attacks in Boston than Los Angeles. Because imagine if I used to live in Alabang until 2000. We came back to Makati year 2000. I was also spending 1,000 hours a year in traffic. And I felt like I'm a prisoner in my car, 1,000 hours a year. Yeah. Now that I came back to Makati, I think we have more time to work longer or go to the movies. Rockwell, these were the 5 towers that we were the architects. And I told you about this west block of Rockwell, 200 families per hectare. And many former residents of Forest Park, they moved here. Yeah. The Rockwell, even if the law allows that you can make 70% saleable, Rockwell was only 51% saleable. The rest was open space, at least in the west block where we designed the buildings. So some cityscapes. When we were taught in local architectural schools, we started studying abroad, there are only 4 kinds of facade of a building. The front facade, the rear facade, the left and right side facade. One thing we learned is the 5th facade. That's the top view, how the ground looks like, how the vertical building connects to the horizontal landscape. So this is the 5th facade, looking down, and how the ground looks like. Yeah. Fourth Tower is now Fraser Place, also designed that. This is a design competition for Fort Bonifacio, where we won first 3 prize, first, second, and third prize, because the design competition did not say maximum entry, so we submitted 3 entries, and we won first, second, third prize. the others were complaining why we won first, second, third prize. And the feature of this is it's cross-ventilated, sky gardens, and air conditioning would be an option. You can just open your windows, cross-ventilated, sky gardens, rainwater harvesting, solar panels, and so on. And sloping ceilings. Again, we were taught in local schools, near the window, you drop the ceiling, and you buy artificial lights. We're lighting consultancy and suppliers. But we learned in Harvard, you slope up your ceiling so that you have more daylight coming in. And their utilities, you put them in the corridors. But in our country, we give more work to the interior designers. So we drop the ceiling, we block the sunlight, and we buy more lighting facilities. But what we did here are sloping ceiling. Yeah, like here. We slope the ceiling, so you have the widest vertical clearance near the windows. This one in Cagayan de Oro, I asked for the worst flooding. There was no, in 100 years, there was no data. They gave me anecdotal research, 5.5 meters high. So we just assumed it must be 8 meters. So we raised the whole complex, 10 hectares, by 10 meters. The last flooding was 8 meters. And this building under construction, the hotel and convention center under construction, it saved 700 human lives. The one swimming in the flood, it's a good thing that the construction manager opened the gates, they climbed the building, and so 700 people were saved. 3 cows and 3 piglets. Unfortunately, the 3 piglets did not survive the New Year. So these are tall buildings we've designed elsewhere in the world. These are 1 kilometer high buildings. 800. This is King Abdallah Financial District. All the buildings will be interconnected. 3 levels of access. Street level access, pedestrian. Then second level, interconnected walkways connecting all the buildings. And third level, monorail, interconnecting all the buildings. And the ground floor is only for pedestrians and beautiful cars. If you are in ugly car, you are in the basement number 1. If you are a garbage truck, basement number 4. All of these, sky gardens, solar walls, pedestrian bridges. This is in Dubai, Jumeirah Beach, one of the highest densities. This one is 1,200 meters for Abu Dhabi, not yet built. Our design inspiration is the oil platform, oil derricks in the sea. Yeah. It would have been the tallest in the world. So we were asked to design. The others are 1 kilometer high and 900 meters high. Yes. Some tall buildings that Palafox Associates have worked on. That one is in Sudan, Khartoum. Our clients were developers from Dubai. It's also in Dubai, the towers that we designed. Saudi Arabia, Hong Kong, and we try to practice much practicable, triple bottom line approach to development, social equity or people first. How many jobs will be created and so on, and then planet Earth or environment, then economy or profit. In some projects we apply also. One of the bottom lines is arts and culture and history. Then quietly we put also spirituality. And the 12 sustainable design development, green initiatives, green architecture, green urbanism, green technology, green energy, interiors, furniture, infrastructure, manufacturing, sustainable development. Hopefully we can also influence green fertilizing, green jobs, and green transportation. I think about 10 years ago, I was probably the first who signed up from here. I'm a member of the American Institute of Architects, and we pledged that by 2030, the buildings and communities we design should be zero net energy, zero carbon footprint. We self-monitor ourselves. People, even CNN, BBC, and Al Jazeera, they came to interview me when we gave up $1 million in architects fee for a project in Subic. Because our client, they wanted us to destroy 366 70-year-old trees. For me, a 50-year-old tree, the replacement value is 9 million pesos. For the oxygen it gave the past 50 years, the water itself, the fertilizer it gave, the beauty it gave the environment. And our clients would not allow it. So we returned the $1 million fee. And I got a 50 million libel case for allegedly maligning the good name of some people. I got harassment and so the international, like CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, even they came here to meet the crazy architect who would give up $1 million to save a few trees. So I explained to them the 50 million. And that's part of my pledge, 2030. Manila Polo Club, I think some of your members, we won the design competition for the rehab and renovation. I asked for 2 million pesos more to save 2 50-year-old trees. At first, they wouldn't give in at a peso more. But when I said that 9 million pesos per tree, so 18 million pesos replacement value of 2 trees, they saved them. Now those 2 trees are the poster boys of the magazines of Manila Polo Club. So we have good corporate citizens also in this country. So for master plan communities we do here, we require in the deed restrictions 10 trees per every car you own. You take about 10 trees to recover the oxygen of the carbon monoxide per car. The ones we do in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, I ask for 17 trees per car because they have much larger shopping utility vehicles. Recently, I told you about this. Reimagine, replan, re-architecture, redevelop, renew, reduce, recycle. Hopefully, we'll have renaissance. If you rotate the map of the world, the Philippines is right in the middle. It's no wonder for more than 300 years, we were the Spanish European hub in Asia Pacific. 100 years, the Americans. 4 years, the Japanese tried to. 2 years, the British. And Magellan arrived in the Philippines without a nautical map. He must have been brought here like the waves and winds a la Yolanda. And so we can see the strategic location of our country. And we have a rapidly growing economy, and hopefully we'll have urban renaissance. There are so many good things about our country. We're number one in the world in marine biodiversity. We're now number one in voice call centers. We're number one in sailors and seafarers. I'd like to believe we're number one in musicians. You see Filipinos anywhere you go. Singers. Now, we're not number two in BPOs. We're the third longest coastline in the world. Others, they go to war because they don't have the waterfront. Like Iraq, they have in Kuwait, because Kuwait is blocking the waterfront. Dubai, as I said, had only 70 kilometers waterfront, so they had to make artificial islands to gain 2,000 kilometers more. We're number 4 in gold reserves, we're number 4 in shipbuilding, we're number 5 in all other mineral resources, and we're number 12 in human resources. And the Filipino is the favored employee of kings, queens, sheikhs, colleges, developers, cruise ships, what have you. And the Filipino is the best citizen of the world. Unfortunately, outside the Philippines. The Philippines is 400 times the size of Singapore. You can put 400 Singapores in the Philippines. 350 times, 50 times the size of Hong Kong, 8 times the size of Taiwan, 3 times the size of South Korea. From the 1930s to the 1970s, we were number 2 in Asia, second only to Japan. That's why Asian countries, they voted Manila as potentially the highest development potential as a financial center. We're competing against the Shah of Iran, who had so much money for Tehran. We're competing against Japan, the biggest contributor in the ADB. And Japan agreed only provided the president will always be Japanese. And Philippines today, third investment grade rating, Asia's rising star, one of the world's fastest growing economies. So we have 3 major challenges. I presented this when I became president of the Management Association of the Philippines in 2011. Mapping a culture of integrity, addressing corruption, criminality, and climate change. And if we do that, we should be in the top 20 economies of the world by 2021. And these are forecasts from HSBC and Goldman Sachs. Number 19 economy in the world by 2025, and number 16 by 2050. And Global Cities Index ranking, New York is number 1 today. And you can look at the other cities. And emerging in 2014, emerging cities outlook, Manila is number 2 in the world. We're only second to Jakarta. But we have so many opportunities for our country. And in fact, jokingly from my friends abroad, they call us, we've won so many international, Miss Universe, Miss World. And we're getting known to be missed opportunities. I hope because urbanization, 1900s, 2 out of 10 people live in cities. By 2030, 6 out of 10. By 2050, 7 out of 10 people. 200,000 people a day move to the cities. And the growth of Metro Manila from 1948 to 2020, it's a lot of challenges but a lot of opportunities also. Housing, infrastructure, jobs, and so on. And 100 million today or 108 million in the Philippines. And I think about more than 50% are urban population. These are the emerging central business districts. And where the tall buildings are going to happen. Maybe you help me out because people keep confidential their plans for the future. And I'm supposed to be the one reporting to the council for tall buildings and urban habitat, how many tall buildings that at least our cities will have by 2020. But I have difficulty getting that information. I might be removed as a country representative because I'm not producing this information. So skyline of Makati, Ortigas, and Manila skyline. CBDs in Metro Manila emerging and existing. And you can see here the primacy of Metro Manila. The whole Philippines, the only lighted one is Metro Manila. The rest of our country are not lighted. And when we have time at Palafox Architecture and Palafox Associates, we take pictures of the uglification of our cities. And we send it to the mayors. Some of them are upset, but more of them are pleased. And sometimes they give us projects. So, Pasig River of the future. This is how it can look like. And San Juan Neopolis, we did not put the Pasig River of today. Our plan for San Juan, we got a citation from Berlin, Shanghai, and Chicago as a smart city of the future. There we go. So, Annapolis today, Annapolis of the future. A creek in San Juan today, the same creek in the future. So, call them postcards of the future from the ugliness of today. San Juan River today, San Juan of the River of the future. Again, the same San Juan River, because the mayor and city council, the commission has to do the urban planning for San Juan. The future of the San Juan River, still the same river, the future. Postcards, Esteros of Manila, the one on the left, existing, and future on the right. This one, Esteros San Miguel, we got already funding for this. Because I had difficulty putting the bridge. The two barangays are quarreling, they did not want the pedestrian bridge. Because we talk about connectivity. And we're very lucky. So we asked them to set back a building, and we did green architecture for the urban poor. We were lucky to have had a champion that time, Jesel Obrego. So he got it funded, and this is being funded now. Yeah. Estero de Paco today, above, and the future. Manila Urban Renewal. Mayor President Arab called me within 1 hour after he got a favorable decision from Supreme Court, and he asked us to help him do urban renewal for Manila. And that's what we're calling it. So about city BUH, Council for Tall Buildings Urban Habitats, the world's leading resource for professionals focus on the design, construction, and operation of tall buildings and future cities. You may want to become a member today. I can endorse you, or you can write straight to Chicago. And this is citybuh.org membership. And in September, we'll probably have the largest conference on tall buildings in New York. And you have the opportunity to display your projects. And it's too late to submit to be a speaker. I submitted mine. I hope they'll approve it. The deadline was January 31. And why join CTBUH? As of 2013, our network is about 800,000 people, more than 5,000 offices around the world. Landowners, building owners, developers, financiers, contractors, architects, engineers, urban planners. And I was probably the first member from our country. That's why they elected me as country representative. And we do a lot of global interchanges. And these are some of our references. We'll try to put this so it's accessible to everybody in the website or something, internet. But we'll make sure we acknowledge all our sources. And for God, Country, and Planet Earth, Pro Deo Patria Terra, our first book on the left is sold out. The one on the right is still available. And I think we all like to live in environment-friendly cities, master plan cities and communities that are better connected, more accessible, more walkable, more bikeable, safer, better lighted, more convenient, cleaner with mixed income, cross-generational mixed developments, integrating places to live, work, shop, and dine, learn, and worship, with healthcare, recreation, and leisure, with some 24-hour cycle activity centers. So we are 25 years as a company. We've done work in 38 countries. We've done more than 1,235 projects. We've done 16 billion square meters of master planned area, more than 12 billion square meters of architecture for building floor area, more than 200 awards and citations worldwide. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, sir. Have you read and could you comment on the M. Myers study?
Yeah, the Metro Manila
Metro
earthquake
Manila
reduction study. That's it. Yeah, you can show it, no? Yeah.
Because
I agree with
it does say that
I agree with it.
Our code is not sufficient for the design
Nah,
of our buildings
very
for
nice.
earthquake.
Yeah.
And that the design should be different in certain areas and zones around the Metro
Yeah,
Metro
that was
Manila.
our project. We do a performance standard.
Yes.
We borrowed the standard from the same earthquake zone number 4, like California, China, Taiwan, Japan. At least our tall building projects. We borrow from them over and above the requirements of the building code. Because even in wind speed, it's only 220 kilometers per hour. Yolanda was 300 kilometers per hour. 220. And most government structures are way, way down. Because they use smuggled steel. So these are not certified steel. So this is from Myers report. And in fact, I did not know about the Myers report, Metro Manila Earthquake Impact Reduction Study, 2004 by JICA. And Anna Coren of CNN, he came to my office for earthquake 7 point, I think she was testing me. What's your estimate, how many buildings would collapse? And it's around 20%. Then she asked me, have you read the Myers report? What the Myers report? Only then that I got hold of this. And I agree with it. And it should be a public document that everybody should have. Because all Metro Manila mayors 2004, they are signatories to this. Yeah. So you can see here, bridges, flyovers, and so on. Water supply, electric, and how many buildings? Mid-rise and high-rise buildings, 10 to 30 stories building, 991 buildings will be affected. 30 to 60, 119. There is the percentages on even cables that will be cut. 4,000 points, 30 kilometers. For transmission and electric power distribution, 4,862 kilometers. So Meralco, take note of that. PLDT, 95 kilometers. For the various models. Public purpose buildings, heavily damaged, 8 to 10%. Partly damaged, up to 25. Yeah. Then for the 60 stories building, 2%. 12% partly damaged. Heavily damaged for 10 to 30 stories, 11%, and so on. This is available at Fieldbox. As a taxpayer, you can get a copy. Even the alignment of the fault line. And Fieldbox tell us you can build 5 meters away from it, but a lot of structures are on top of it.
But the critical one is the water supply would have been cut to
It will be cut.
because it's only one source.
Yeah, it will be cut.
Yes.
As I said, east and west of the fault line
Yes.
will divide Metro Manila, and north and south of the rivers. And many of the lines are with the bridges. If bridges will collapse, the lines will be cut also. And nobody takes it seriously, and this was 10 years ago.
Jun, I'm Nando, a friend of Jun. I'd just like to make an observation. Jun, the invitation for today was saying that Jun Palafox is an activist. Well, my observation is that we look at Jun as a crusader against corruption. He's gotten into problems with some politicians, not only in Subic, but other places like Quezon, etc. We don't have to expound, but so I think that maybe the character was formed during his younger days. You know, Jun was a seminarian, trying to be, well, maybe if he had become a priest, he might have been a good one, but we need him here where he is. So thanks, Jun.
Nando became my friend when he found out I entrapped a BIR examiner for extortion. So I gave money with fluorescent powder, and once he touched the money, he was arrested by the NBI. That's why and he was surprised there's such an architect who would do a sting on a BIR examiner. That's how I came to they supported our crusade. Yeah, we should be in a top country in the world if only we address corruption. And the word corruption comes from 2 words I learned in the seminary. Cor, the heart, rapture, to break the heart. Corruption. That's why we are a broken-hearted society. Or corrupture, going down together as a nation. And if you fight corruption, if you believe in your faith, it's a corporal works of mercy, because the biggest sufferers of corruption are the poorest of the poor. And the poorest of the poor are 28 million Filipinos. Pope Francis, what did he say? Corruption and poverty, we must address, aside from his mercy and compassion. Anyway, we segue to spiritual, so we go back to the more mundane questions.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Nick Canoe. Good afternoon, Mr. Palafox. I used to live in Hong Kong for 10 years and suffered from the environmental problems there through pollution. Now you're promoting the tall buildings. How are you going to address the pollution issues that have faced Hong Kong, and which they're struggling to overcome, as it's now become quite a dangerous city to live in from a health point of view?
I think some parts of Hong Kong, but maybe not the mid levels, the highly more compact developments. But it's solvable, as I mentioned, these well-designed tall buildings, putting 9 blocks of the city in one tower. So it should be easier to address garbage collection, you call it refuse collection, and so on. I think because Hong Kong also grew rapidly, and we can learn from their mistakes as well. And one thing with Hong Kong and other former British colonies, I think they're more, despite some problems also, they seem to be more effectively addressing public health. I learned of it in the Middle East. Dubai was former protectorate, relatively cleaner than other emirates and so on. So it's a problem also. There's a certain level. In fact, I think I saw in the studies, the best building height is, the building heights of European cities, 8 stories. 8 stories. But you also need these high rises or visual point blocks, landmarks to identify the city. It's a problem that we can learn lessons from, even the way they address this. 35 years ago, Hong Kong was more corrupt than the Philippines, but they address this more. 50 years ago, Singapore was more corrupt than the Philippines. So we still have hope. Yeah.
I am Ferdy of Q2 HR Solutions. The question that I have is, infrastructure problems are very much into our midst at this time, no? And we do need leaders to propel this country forward. I do not want to put you on the spot, but is it possible for you to run for public office, for example, to be able to realize maybe some of the dreams that you have seen in your presentation? Thank you, sir.
My wife, my CRC will not allow me. My company will not allow me. In fact, you're not the first one who said that. I was in a meeting and Sister Mary Jan Manansan of St. Scholastica, the activist nun, she stood up and said, I highly recommend Jun Palafox for president. Then Orly Mercado stood up, I'll be the campaign manager. I spoke to them, just like putting a bullet in my head. Because the way I am now, I can speak out anything. But if I become a politician, I will have to edit what I say. Plus, we have projects abroad, and unfortunately, they may not allow us. I'm working for my payroll for my staff.
Good afternoon, Mr. Palafox. I'm Marco from JLL. I want to ask, how can an LGU implement an urban redevelopment program with land ownership as a restriction to reconstruction? Because I know that the government can exercise the power of eminent domain, but only if the purpose of the exercise is for public use. So, like for example, they want to build, they want to turn, for example, the outskirts of Makati into a CBD, but they have land ownership, like the owners of small parcels of land. How can the LGU address that problem?
We can learn from best practices. Like there were so many ugly places or what needing redevelopment in New York, and they got a good leader, Mayor Giuliani, then Mayor Bloomberg. What they did, street by street, block by block, which is veering away from the grand master plans. So we related this to the mayor of Manila. So we do it street by street, block by block. And the first day we met him, the first day after his favorable decision from the Supreme Court, he asked me, "Architect, wait for a while. Mboa coming wants to meet you." I thought it was Ebola. Mboa, Ermita Malate Building Owners Association. So I showed them the uglification of the city and postcards from the future. And they were all excited. So at least we start from a small beginning. So if we're successful with the Remedios Circle, Remedios Street up to Rojas Boulevard, the building owners are very willing. So I told them, we give you the design, you paint your own facade. Then maybe the city of Manila will spend for the street lights, the sidewalks, the landscape, security, and so on. And one reason I picked that out, during the paper visit, I served communion at Luneta, and there were so many foreigners telling me they feel Manila is more charming than Makati. Makati, they say, is just like any city anywhere elsewhere in the world. But they say Manila, just make it a little bit cleaner and safer. They prefer the charm of Manila. So it seems there's really potential, and there seems to be a serious leader right now. And he's counting, he has less than 500 days. And he wants to deliver. And I think most of our politicians who are really sincere about it can do it. But you have to work with the private sector. And also because of when you improve the facade of your building, the taxman will increase your valuation. So it even discourages you from painting your facade. Elsewhere in the world, they encourage you to repaint your facade every 5 years. So a lot of things are coming. And you can do it. You don't have to be an architect to do it. Like, I'm more conscious now even about signages in traffic. Signages. We have so many substandard and signages that it's an entrapment by policemen. Yeah. Like we're supposed to have 3 signages. Advanced informational sign, advanced directional sign, then the confirmatory sign. We only have the confirmatory sign. So suddenly in front of you, you do not enter. Then you are in the wrong lane. Because there was no advanced informational, advanced directional sign. So and like no parking on both sides. How can you park on both sides when you only have one car? So, anyway, a lot of homework for all of us, including our friends from abroad who have preferred to stay in our country. If I may share a joke, a Sheikh client from Saudi Arabia, like the police before in the Hives, there were a lot of jokes. Now it's Filipinos. And he said, several countries complained to Allah, why Allah favored the Philippines with more beautiful women and more beautiful islands. And Allah said, stop complaining. I also gave them the worst politicians. So Allah is fair.
Hi, Palafox. I'm Trixie Ariola from JLL. I thought your presentation was great because you talked about cities. And there was also a recent realization in JLL's organization. A month ago, we did a press release. We study cities as opposed to countries. And Manila, although in this case, we refer to Metro Manila, appeared suddenly in the top 30 for our research. So I thought it was great that you look into cities because cities, even within the Philippines, do not have to be hopeless if we see the country as hopeless because cities can be competitive on their own. And actually, we see that, as you said, in certain mayors or even among certain developers who are now building cities or townships. And I think if we can promote that kind of thinking, then there will be hope for certain cities in the Philippines. So thank you for that.
Yeah, great comment. And I have friends from FIAPSI here, real estate people. Can I share it, Portos? Just yesterday, one of our, I will not tell who he is, he's a developer. In a certain local government, he was asked to pay 4 million pesos permit fee. Then when he looked at his official receipt, 30,000 pesos. So I told him, why don't we be a whistleblower? And he said, what did he say? He tried, but he was threatened. You report, you blow the whistle, you'll have a cease and desist order. So you'll not have a project. You already borrowed money from the banks. So if you borrow 1 billion pesos, how much for every day of delay? I said, you should have spoken out. I'm going to help you. Then you know what he told me? I'm not as courageous as you are, Jun. I'm just a smart coward. So maybe together, let's catch the good ones. If we have 1,600 mayors, let's identify maybe the 100 who are honest. And don't bring investors in the dishonest mayors. Maybe that's one way we can work together. And the Ateneo is the Jesuits. They are documenting all corruption where whistleblowers are being harassed. They are asking them to document it. If we cannot benefit in our generation, at least future generations will benefit. Because the corrupt and the smugglers, they don't pay taxes. We're the ones paying taxes. And I even have a provocative recommendation. Spoke to some of our friends in legislative and executive branches of government, proposing that the Philippines be free port country and abolish customs. And because in Dubai, no personal income taxes. It's a free port. And in Dubai, for every citizen of Dubai, there are 10 jobs available. In our country, for every job available, there are 10 Filipinos competing. And most of the smuggling are being done in free ports, controlled by extreme vested interest groups that are very well connected to whoever is in power. Reportedly, that's not from me, reportedly. So why don't just make, during the Yolanda corridor, I have friends from abroad who were volunteering, donating. You know what they told me? June, accepting the donations and assistance from your friends abroad, you are not even globally competitive. They have to go through the bureaucracy of customs and other government agencies. They say it's very, very frustrating. So if we open up, I even recommended that maybe watercraft and aircraft be tax-free for the next 10 years, like even yachts, used for tourism and emergencies. And I spoke to 3 ambassadors to keep helping our country, especially the Coast Guard and the Philippine Air Force, for watercraft and aircraft. Because we have the third longest coastline in the world, longer than the USA. All we have is the Philippine Coast Guard is all coast, no guards. The Philippine Air Force, all air, no force.
Hi, June. This is Trent Franklin from Tan Franklin Associates.
Hi, Ben.
Hi there. Let's assume that we minimize corruption to at least a point where things are workable and we've enhanced cooperation amongst all the LGUs. What would be all these beautiful buildings and massive projects that you're showing, they're very impressive, but I don't think we need any more high-rises here right now until we fix the infrastructure issues. Assuming those 2 things that I just said, what would be the next steps kind of to get us back on the right track in terms of, would it be a subway system? Would it be enhancing the MRT, the LRT? Would it be doing more flyovers? Like, what would improve the traffic flow around the city so that it would make us a more efficient country in general?
Our transportation policy, as I told you, seems to be biased to the automobile, which even American cities have discovered. It's not, you build more roads, you attract more cars. And we should look at the demand side of transportation. The wrong land use, the wrong densities. Like Makati CBD, 11 times population during the day, and at night or weekends, the roads are free. Maybe balance it, like increase more residential density in Makati, and in dormitory areas where people just go home to sleep, put more opportunities for jobs. And there are 20 kinds of transportation. You mentioned the subway. The subway is the highest capacity per lane per hour. Unfortunately, because our flooding is not yet addressed effectively, and somebody said maybe we need submarines underneath EDSA rather than a subway. And 1975, I worked on the World Bank funded Metro Manila, where I was team leader. I think we had more than 300 recommendations. MRT is partly implemented, but not a single carriage of MRT was added the past 10 years. And in 15 years from 1975, we should have completed the whole network. American Corps of Engineers, the 10 radial roads and 6 circumferential roads. We haven't seen the light of day for circumferential road number 6, and that was proposed before I was born. So I think we should have the political will from concept to commitment to completion faster. And really comprehensive planning in terms of time. What can we do within the next 100 days? 2016, after the elections, new leadership. I've been putting for 2021 when the Philippines will be 500 years old. Then 2025 to 2050 and beyond. And then comprehensive in terms of discipline and profession. Like our roads are only designed by road and highway engineers. They put highways inside the cities. They cut all the trees they can cut because they don't consult urban planners, landscape architects, and so on. It's really so fragmented. But in our private sector, we need to have more pockets of efficiencies. Look at Rockwell or Greenbelt and so on. There's efficiencies in the private sector. I wish we could do corridors of efficiencies connecting these pockets of efficiencies. And I wish everybody will be able to speak out. Like I've sent the president more than 100 recommendations, and I was told by somebody close to him that he doesn't read them. And he told me confidentially that, architect, you go to the newspapers. When he reads it, he gets jolted. He's not too happy, but at least he pays attention. So maybe if all of us would do that, instead of single people, being attacked, abused verbally and so on, even the papers were in the judiciary, if 100 people, only 100 people speak out, I think we'll be able to. And many of us are very well traveled, and we have so many expatriates like yourself, and you can share mistakes in your cities and best practices where we can apply here. It's really, planning is balanced. There's so much imbalance. Even we're supposed to be reduction of poverty from 28% to 15%, supposed to be this year. That's our millennial goal and commitment to the rest of the world. We're still 28% poverty. And I think we should all speak out our minds. And the solutions are there, but they're not being implemented. Thank you for that comment. And as I said, maybe instead of catching the bad ones, let's honor the good ones and shame the bad ones, and don't bring investment to the corrupt LGUs. Another one is when the U.S. Secretary of Commerce, that very smart lady, he talked to a few of us. And his first few days, everything he heard was great, great, great. Invest in the Philippines. You know what she asked us? Can you please write down the barriers of investment? And in the real estate, the barriers of investment, why can foreigners own land in this country? They can develop it, they cannot bring it home. So many Filipinos own land in California, Europe, all over the world. Why can foreigners own land? If they are for leasehold, why not make it 99 years? In Dublin, Ireland, there's a brewery. You know how much is his land lease and water lease for Dublin River? 1,000 years. That's the Guinness Brewery. 1,000 years. And I asked them how many more years to go. They said 700 years. And they're the biggest contributor to the economy of Dublin. Other one, which we're talking real estate here, the Real Estate Investment Trust. Why so many investments in real estate in Singapore? Such more because they have the Real Estate Investment Trust that even a taxi driver can own part of the shopping mall. Until now, suffering from analysis paralysis. The other one, there are 32 signatories for the development permit, 12 signatories for a building permit. So we have 44 obstacles course for corruption. 44. When I was working for the Rural Dubai, I represented the Town Planning, Urban Planning Department. The Rural Dubai instructed us, those approving permits. We sit around table. Everybody is represented. Planning, engineering, police, utility companies. sit down around the table. If anyone has any objection, the one objecting has a fortnight, 2 weeks to justify your objection. Because the ruler says, the businessman, it's his own money, his own land, his own reputation. The one approving is only thinking 6 hours a day. And it's the reverse here. The ones approving, they haven't designed a building, they haven't designed a community. They are so strict, they have no experience in anything. So at least we have awareness now. Thank you for that comment. Anyone else? You may want to write your comments. Maybe, hopefully, Richard and Rebecca will organize another event for a continuing education for all of us. It doesn't have to be just me, but I've given them about 12 topics to choose from. And vertical cities is just one of them. The other one is Philippines 2021 at 500. The other one is designing hotels and tourism planning. The other one is mixed-use development. So I have about 10 to 12 topics that are shareable. Maybe we send it to ACCO Forum and do a survey. What's your preference?
All right. Thank you, Jun. Palakpakan naman natin si Jun.